the Moneyweb Crypto Podcast, where we discuss all things crypto related. Your host, Kieran Ryan.
Does the wine taste better when you own a piece of the vineyard? Well, until recently, owning an interest in a Stellenbosch wine estate was largely reserved for those with plenty capital, but not anymore. The first vineyard token has arrived in South Africa, and it's a promising example of what can be done when you open up otherwise illiquid assets to the retail market. The ARA Vineyard Token, or AVT, is intended to give holders access to some of the economics of the ARA wine estate in Stellenbosch, along with wine allocations, events, and other membership privileges. Holders may also receive stablecoin distributions linked to the number of bottles sold and potential exposure to the future development of unused land on the estate. Well, joining us to explain this is Mark Diuga, CEO of Bitex South Africa, which is involved in the issue of this new token. So, Mark, first of all, thanks very much for your time. Let's kick off with the simplest explanation. If I buy an ARA Vineyard Token, and that's spelled A-R-R-A, ARA Vineyard Token, what exactly have I bought? And in what sense can I say I own a piece of the Stellenbosch vineyard?
Perfect. Kieran, thank you for having me on. Happy to talk in a lot more detail about this project, which is near and dear to me, being on a journey of the last 12 months to see it from ideation to hopefully fruition in the coming months as we launch the Bitex and cryptocurrency exchange. So AVT, the ARA Vineyard Token, is a representation of a bundle of rights linked directly to the working wine farm ARA Estate or ARA Vineyard, just off the R44 between the N1 and Stellenbosch. So a popular wine corridor, and ARA is a working wine farm. And the representation and the use of the token is for the general public to access an investment opportunity to participate in a membership style club, similar to what we've seen in the wine world before, but to have a more direct engagement and financial relationship with the underlying farm itself. So our intention with the project, and will be laid out on the website, the white paper, and we'll go into some more detail, is a share of the vineyard, the equity of the vineyard, will be converted into a structure which is legally and compliant in South Africa, where the token holders have protected rights to various utilities on the farm. So whether that is the ability to access the wine directly, to get discounts on the wine, to participate in membership type promotions, but also very importantly is to receive royalties from a working vineyard. So this is tokenization of a real world asset where it's not the creation of a cryptocurrency out of thin air. It is the tokenized representation of an underlying farm. Whether that conflates to being a shareholder, no, it doesn't in the simplest terms. So you don't have the same rights and protections that a shareholder may have with direct equity. But this is a way where the general population can participate contractually with an underlying asset in the country, which is not a publicly listed tradable share, but is a smaller, and in this case, a boutique wine farm, and available for walk-ins, visitors, e-commerce, etc., from the vineyard itself.
So I take it that you basically, when you buy a token, you're participating in the business of the farm. You don't actually have land rights or anything like that. Is that correct?
So the structure itself, without getting too complicated into it, will be a partnership which owns the equity in the farm. Now, the idea is that token holders don't have to moonlight as farmers and aren't pruning on the weekend and sweating the asset themselves. So it wouldn't be an operational ownership stake, but it will be proportionate to the amount of funds raised. But a minority equity interest, a significant minority equity interest in a working vineyard. And then the token holders have their rights represented through a limited partnership structure, protected by the workings of a financial services provider, which is a crypto asset service provider, a CASP as we have come to know them, which enforces the rights of token holders against the underlying asset. So that, yes, you're not, by having one token, turning up and planting your stake on the farm and saying that this is my square meter of land, but at the same time, you do have all the protections that are underpinned contractually and enforceable by the general partner, which is a licensed financial service provider.
All right, let's talk about how the financial returns will work. So there's a white paper that's been issued, and the proposal, as I understand it, is that between R7.50 and R15 for every bottle sold will be converted into a stable coin and distributed among people who stake their tokens. So what does that mean for an ordinary token holder? And what happens if wine sales fall short of the targeted 250,000 bottles a year, which is mentioned in the white paper?
Great question. So first of all, I think we know that vineyards are typically a return on ego and not a return on investment. So we see AVT as appealing to individuals who want exposure to an alternative asset, something that's not cyclical and a high beta away from markets themselves. But the impetus is not a financial return. And yes, we anticipate rewards there to be a financial upside in AVT. But at the same time, this is not a get-rich-quick crypto scheme where we're making impossible assumptions on returns. This is a working vineyard. It sells bottles of wine. It is on track to sell 250,000 bottles. And depending on the amount of funds raised via AVT, that will acquire the right to a royalty payment per bottle sold, which, depending on the amount of funds raised, between R7.50 and R15, every time a bottle is sold on the estate or sold wholesale, a rand will be converted into stablecoin and added to a smart contract, which will be fully published and auditable. And then that will be distributed on a pro rata basis, on a token weighted basis between the token holders who are staking. So there's a direct relationship between the amount of bottles sold, the financial reward for being a token holder. But there are other rights, benefits that we believe go hand in hand with the AVT project. But to your point, what if the farm sells less than 250,000 bottles? Well, that's the same as if you or I were a private shareholder in a vineyard. Its yield is lower that year. Its return is lower. It's unfortunate. There are risks in investing. There are risks in investing in any asset class. Obviously, wine, supply and demand, as well as the weather factors into the equation on production. But equally, part of the use of funds raised in the AVT project is to accelerate the growth of the vineyard itself and its distribution partners to try and increase the volume of wine sold. And we believe it creates a relationship between the token holders themselves, the consumers of wine. When they go into their bottle store, are they more likely to engage with a wine brand or wine label that they feel that they are an owner of, that they have some say in, that they have an invitational access to, proprietary benefits to? When they see their bottle of wine on the shelf, are they more likely to support that estate versus one of their neighboring estates? We believe so, and we see the potential for a symbiotic relationship to increase the volume of the estate.
Yeah, I see that as a very interesting business model where you're creating some loyalty there by people who actually own it. So I'm going to ask you the question. You've no doubt tasted this wine. So if you do own a piece of the vineyard, does the wine taste better?
I'm not an owner of the vineyard yet. I'm expecting the next vintage to be better than the last. But yeah, it's a great wine. It is not highly distributed in South Africa. It's very much in the export market at the moment. We hope to work with the estate to change that. Yeah, we've seen some very prolific owners of vineyards around us in the Western Cape. I think there's an opportunity for the wider population to play a little bit of that game, whether it's their own endeavors at the braai and their ego saying, okay, you're now tasting my own label, or just a broader concept of just participation with the audience and community that borders the estate.
Okay, tell us a little bit about Bitexen. That's your company. You're the CEO. So what is it? You are a CASP, a crypto asset service provider. How long have you been operating in South Africa? What services do you offer?
I need to go into a little bit of detail here. So I'm wearing two hats in this conversation. So I'm the CEO of Bitexen South Africa. Bitexen is a cryptocurrency exchange that's been operational for 8 years now, from Turkey and headquartered in Istanbul until more recently migrating under license into the Abu Dhabi general markets in the UAE. So it's operational in Turkey, operational in Europe, particularly Eastern Europe, as well as the UAE, approximately 5 million active customers globally. And I've been working with the global Bitexen team for the last 18 months to bring the business online in South Africa. And that is slated to begin at the end of August. We've been doing friends and family testing. The website, the app, it's all available. We're just testing every part of the system before we make a few headline noises coming in the next 3 or 4 weeks' time. But interestingly, for this part of the conversation, talking about AVT, is we have a separate token issuance company so that we can try and, as best as we possibly can, remove conflicts and remove what each business is there to do. So we have a business which is called Cryptoso, which is part of our group company, Oso Capital, which is a CAS. That is a token issuance company. I sit on the board of that business. There are elements where I need to recuse myself. There are clearly arm's length negotiations that have to happen between a token issuer, BitX, being a token exchange. So we're very careful about that. We fully documented that it's part of our white paper and legal brief. But for the purposes of this conversation, talking about BitX's entry into the market, one product that we were very passionate about doing is real-world asset tokenization, sports club tokenization. So we want to be known in the industry for tokenization projects and tokenization where there is substance to it, where you can touch and feel a brand and product that many of the population already engage with and start the journey to participate more meaningfully with those brands. So we want to become known in the space for the tokenization of real-world assets, tokenization of sports membership type clubs, and maybe less so of the tokenization of sort of private credit style or traditional financial assets. So we want to carve out a niche for ourselves as a business, and it's something we've done successfully overseas over the last 8 years.
It's interesting that you mentioned sports clubs, and I know that Bitexen is quite well known in Turkey and elsewhere for tokenization of real-world assets. So this is something that's being discussed, but you're actually putting it into action in a very visible way. Talk about the types of assets that you would be most interested in. So you're not particularly interested in like Mesh Trade, for example, which is doing bond issuances and that type of thing, or where you have a type of EFT lookalike where you can buy copper or some metal like that. You're looking more at vineyards. And do you expect more vineyards would come online when they see this? I'm quite interested to see how this works in practice, where you build up a loyalty following, and you increase your actual sales of the wine because the people do own the vineyard. What about the sports club side of it? How does that work in practice?
Yeah, I mean, we hope more vineyards come online. We're talking to a paddle operating club to set up more of a relationship between the community of paddle players, getting not just a discount, but getting a return on the usage of the courts so that they're deploying their capital where they love spending their time. We're talking to boutique hotels, talking to safari game farms to try and look at creating similar illustrations. And our purpose behind it is not to kind of control the tokenization side of the market. It's just really to demonstrate what you can do with this technology, the right legal structure in place, because we hope entrepreneurs, business owners eventually come to Bitexen saying, well, look, we've got a great project. We want to look at tokenization as a potential method of engaging closer with our community as part of our growth strategy. So we want to play in that space. And when it comes to sports clubs in particular, I think there's a great ability for whether it's a rugby team, a soccer team, to communicate directly to its audience. It will surprise you to know that most of the sports clubs don't know who their supporters are, not directly. They'll have followings on the social media channels, but they don't know that Mark and Kieran are passionate supporters. Tokenization helps bridge that gap using technology as infrastructure rather than just creating a token out of thin air just simply to sell it. But what can you do if you are a sports team and you can more directly engage and incentivize your most passionate and loyal fans? Can you have them receiving membership discounts, benefits in and around the ground, discounts on ticketing? Are you able to enter them into sort of raffles, lottery style products to win seats to a game, a VIP experience, the chance to burn tokens and meet a player, to lock tokens and win a signed jersey, or simply to look at voting on a target transfer in the transfer market using the token weighted average to vote on the player you'd like to see join your club, and the ability for clubs to use that as a crowdfunding style mechanism to say, okay, this transfer targets 20 million rand. Do we have 1 million fans who want to put in 20 rand to make the transfer happen? I think it really unlocks a lot of potential for those clubs. as long as it's done respectfully. I mean, not to take advantage of the community around the club itself, but to really change the engagement and the relationship and the potential connectivity with a younger fan base who want more engagement, and they want to participate long after the whistle's blown at the end of 90 minutes, that they're looking to keep supporting their club in any way they can.
All right. Final question, Mark, going back to the AVT token. This is the Vineyard token. Now, one of the attractions of tokenization is liquidity, the ability to buy and sell with ease. Who determines what an AVT token is worth after the launch?
So we determine it at the launch. We all set a launch price per token. It will all be disclosed in the white paper, as well as at the checkout, if we can call it that, the token generation event. And then market forces will decide if people like the token, if the wine sales are going up, perhaps the token increases in value. But again, we're not here to speculate on token appreciation. I think we've seen a lot of the Wild West of crypto speculation, big growth, and then significant in the altcoin space devaluation of assets. I think what's interesting to us is that this is a tangible, real world business. We can value it. We will value it. We will communicate to the investors, to the token holders of its journey, of its story, of the net asset value that they've participated in. And then, we'll trading on an exchange provides secondary market liquidity. That liquidity can be thin if investors enjoy the product. They're locking their tokens and therefore removing the circulating supply, and because they're enjoying the benefits. But equally, a thin token supply can change the price quite quickly. And we believe that if the farm itself, if the token is trading at what we call a discount to net asset value, there will be smarter people than us who are looking to buy into the project based on, it's trading at a discount. And similarly, if there's an oversupply because the project's not successful, we would expect the token price to fall. I think investors have to be very aware that there's two sides to the coin. But this is simply not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not a way of putting your money away and expecting it to beat the market year after year. We are expecting this token to really provide a new type of asset class available to South Africans who want exposure for whatever reason it might be, not just financial reasons, but they want to be part of something. They want to go on a journey. They want to vote on the label direction, the design, the scaling of a brand. They want to be able to go to the farm and see what they own and taste it and get discounts for doing it. We believe that people will find the project for more reasons than just ROI.
Very interesting, the direction that real-world asset tokenization is taking in South Africa. And here's a great example. We're going to leave it there. That was Mark Diuga, CEO of Bitex in South Africa. Thanks for your time, Mark.
Thanks for listening to the Moneyweb Crypto Podcast, hosted by Kieran Ryan. To listen to our other podcasts, go to moneyweb.co.za or the Moneyweb app and follow Moneyweb News for daily updates.